Good evening. I'm Erica Pham. I'm currently the chair of the Wilsonville DEI committee. I'm really excited to be here tonight. This is our last speaker series of the season, and I'm arguably going to be the best one. So tonight we have Renee Roman Nose here with us. She has a Master of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies. That is the MAIS up here. She's a citizen of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma, an activist, artist, and motivational speaker, poet, photographer, and cultural anthropologist. She's the author of Sweet Grass Talking, published by Utter Chaos Press. Renee Roman Nose is inspired by historical and contemporary issues. Her CD, The River of Life, a spoken word CD with noted native flute player Peter Ollie, is available in person, I believe here tonight, with the book on Spotify and Amazon. Her second book, titled Have War Paint, Will Travel, looks at relationships largely through a comedic lens. Renee Roman Nose lives and thrives in the Pacific Northwest. And thanks again to everyone for being here tonight, for attending the last series of this fiscal year in Wilsonville. The speaker series by the city and the DEI committee is intended to share diverse perspectives and help us all better understand each other and be respectful of others, even though we may have different lived experiences and beliefs. Thank you, and welcome, Renee.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good day. It's wonderful to see you all here when you could be outside rolling down a little grassy hill. Or digging in the dirt. Yes, indeed. So my name is Renee Roman Nose. I do have a degree in corn, and I make that joke every single time. I was honored to be invited to speak at the Salem Kaiser Public School Native Graduation Night just last week. And the introduction person read that way, Renee Roman Nose, maize. And so that was really fun for me. This is our cameraman, Megan. Thank you, Megan. I will be moving throughout my presentation. I come from a nomadic people, and I honor that in my presentations. I also do stand-up comedy, so you're all in position to be my targets. So just hang on, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. When I went to college, I went back to school when I was 40 because I realized someday I'm going to be 45, and that's with or without a degree. And I already had an associate's, but I was like, I am tired of struggling. I wish I'd had a leadership or someone guiding me to say, stay in school, Renee, finish your bachelor's. Go on for your master's. Do it now before you have children. But no, there was nobody to do that. So it took me a while to figure it out on my own. Apparently I'm a slow learner. Again, 40. But I went off to a college, went to Eastern Oregon University because I'd started out there. I ran for them for 2 years, track and cross country. I was also recruited to the ski team, the varsity ski team at Eastern Oregon University. And the reason I tell you that story is because I didn't know how to ski. And they needed one more person to make a team. And they're like, it's just like running, Renee. How many of you have been cross-country skiing? How like running is that, besides the fact that your feet move? No, it's not. It's not. And Eastern Oregon University, back when it was called Eastern Oregon State College, I come from the chisel and rock days, Fred Flintstone going to college. They didn't have a very big budget. They probably don't now either. But my equipment, my binding would break. And I'd be skiing along, whoosh, 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 whoosh. There would go my ski. And so I probably sounded like one of those cartoon characters, rack-em, scrack-em, rah, all the way down to find my ski. So I finally figured out how to ski by the end of near the end of the season. I ran into a couple trees. Luckily, there were saplings. And they bent with the wind and with my body falling on them. And I remember my first race, it started on top of a hill. And so I said to my teammates, how do I slow down? seemed like a legit question. And she said, oh, don't worry, just fall down. I was like, how is that a breaking solution? But anyways, it did come in handy. But at the end of the season, I'd finally figured out swoosh, swoosh, and I'd finally figured out there's a rhythm to all of that, right? Swoosh, swoosh. There's a rhythm to life, and there's a rhythm to cross-country skiing. I figured it out. I was actually, here we are at regionals, and I'm halfway up. I'm doing really good. There's actually people behind me this time. And normally it was me. I'm warrioring up, making sure everybody else is safe. That was my story. I'm coming in last because I got to protect everybody else, right? So I'm halfway up. I'm doing great. All of a sudden, I'm like, swoosh, swoosh, whee. Like, ah. So all of those who don't cross-country ski, if you're in a race, you have to stay in the tracks that they've preset for you. So I stepped over one so I could stay in the race. And I slid, stomped, slid, stomped, till I got to my ski, recovered my ski, I'm holding it and my pole, slide, stomp, because the binding is totally broken off. And I get to the end, and do you remember the beginning of my season, it started downhill? Guess which way the end of my season, you all were there, weren't you? Yes, it was uphill. And how do you go uphill on cross-country skis? You telemark. So, telemark, stomp, telemark, stomp. And all the way up, I'm like, oh, I hate cross-country skiing. And I had like 4 people from my team who were like, come on, Renee, you can do it. I'm like, I am dead last. The only thing I'm going to do now is go and get in the hot tub and call it a season, because we're done. But I learned so much from cross-country skiing. I learned that I'm not good at giving up. And it could be a cultural thing. They called my people the Fighting Cheyenne because we're not good at giving up either. Today, you could call us Ukrainians, right? So a little bit of perspective. Next slide, please. So let's start with some agreements for this evening. Could I have somebody read the first one, please?
Stay engaged.
Next one.
Listen to understanding.
Third one.
Speak your truth responsibly.
Fourth one.
Expect and accept non-closure.
Number 5.
Be willing to do things differently and experience discomfort.
Thank you. And the final one.
Confidentiality.
Great. Does anyone have any questions about any of those expectations? Do they seem reasonable to everybody? Okay, good. I don't have to kick anybody out. Whew. I'm just kidding. It's really important that we take this space and we look at it as a safe space. Discussing culture, discussing cultural differences, that can be really challenging. It can be challenging to who we are as human beings. It can be challenging to where we come from. Maybe the family values we've been taught or the community values we've picked up along the way. It can challenge that paradigm. It can make us go, wait, I believe this way, but this person said this way is the right way. So what's the right way? Well, it's really important that you as critical thinkers find the right way for yourself. I will be your Cheyenne guide for the evening, but we need to get there together. Okay? Next slide, please. I would like to take a moment to introduce my partner, Don Brutke. He will be our technical assistant today. He's my Vanna with a little more hair. So this seemed pretty basic to me, but what is culture? I'm not a teacher who likes to read to people because I'm assuming at this point in your life you probably already know how to read, so I won't read that to you. But I will say that culture is many things to many people. Every business, every school, every entity that gathers people, they have their own culture. And can anybody think of an example from their own part of the world or part of life that's unique to where you are? Maybe it's like, because I work for ODE, we have acronyms for everything. And when I started, I was like, what language are you speaking? Because all I got was alphabet soup out of that conversation. So can you think of examples for your life?
I work at IT. Nobody uses wiring as a music.
All right, give me an example.
My primary job is an SCCM admin.
Okay, that was good, wasn't it? Okay, what's an SEC admin?
Well, this is going to be even more confusing. System Center Configuration Manager. What I do is I'm a computer geek that makes sure your computer has everything it should have, patches, applications, etc., to make it run the way you want it to run.
Excellent. So every business, every office, we have our own way. We have our own vernacular. And we create those. We create new words all the time. English, American English especially, is a combination of so many different languages. French and German and Spanish and everything else. And so who we are as human beings, we create our own cultures. Your family is a culture. What do you call your children? That's a part of your family culture. Next slide, please.
Question.
Yes.
Is it the culture that changes you, or is it you that changes, or both?
It's both. So you're born into a culture, but you work in different cultures, right? How many people have had more than one career? More than 5. Come on, where are my sisters and brothers here? More than 10. I've had a lot of jobs. Again, back to that wandering child that my mother birthed. So when we're together and we come from different cultures, we have an opportunity to build bridges of understanding. So when I first got here, Miss Farah was kind enough to introduce herself to me, and she went to shake my hand, and then she encouraged me to shake her hand more firmly, and I declined because A, culturally, we don't squeeze hands tightly. That's not a part of Native culture. So when you meet a Native person, generally, may I shake your hand? Yeah. You will shake your hand like this, very gently, because A, I have arthritis. B, we're gentle with one another. And historically, we shook hands like this to show we had no weapons in our hands. So we grasp one another's forearms. So Ms. Farah and I got to share that earlier tonight. So we're already sharing culture. And we're sharing culture by our food. What kind of food did we have? Mexican. It's my favorite. It's a massive amount of food. And you're like, yeah, I love this. More guac.
More guacamole.
Exactly. More guacamole. So can you think of an example yourself in your own life where you've tried to build a bridge of understanding with someone from another culture?
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I used to teach DEI to employees of PCC, Portland Community College. There's one of your acronyms again, and they're very strong on the acronyms as well. And I have my own feelings about that, which is that it's meant to keep everybody in the dark, everybody feeling stupid and off center. But that's another thing. The question was
Building a bridge of understanding between another culture.
So actually just starting out in a room with people who think that racism doesn't exist requires telling stories and letting people know, this is how this happened, or this is how I ended up in the name I have, because my first grade teacher said they couldn't say my name, and those kinds of things. So just being able to tell story and let people know that other things are happening in the world than they have seen, and things like that. And doing it that way without calling people names or, saying they're racist or whatever else like that, but being able to share the information of some kind of history without them having to buckle up and, keep it away from them, because that would mean too many uncomfortable things.
Whatever. Sure.
Well, talking about DEI, especially at this time in our country, is challenging. Not everybody can have that conversation. Not everybody wants that conversation. But, we are a multicultural society. We're the great experiment of the world, right? As an Indigenous person, Whenever I meet somebody from another country who are just brand new here, and I maybe meet somebody randomly at the grocery store or whatever, I'll ask, where's your homelands? And if they mention it's, in somewhere else, I'll say, welcome to my land. Other people cannot say that. I'm Indigenous. I can say that. You can say, welcome to the neighborhood. But I want people to be welcome here. I want you to understand that the depredations of the past that were that happened to my people, some of them continue to happen. Native people are killed at the highest rate by the police. The highest. Now, I told you earlier, I'm just messing with you. Oh, that's right. Everybody, please silence your phones. You don't have to turn them off, just silence them. See, now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
So sorry. I thought I did. The police.
Yeah, so people don't hear about it. We also have the highest rate of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. The highest. We have the highest rate of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people.
And yes, indeed.
Yeah, in the entire country. And we're only 1% of the population. Until recently, the FBI and Department of Justice did not keep statistics on Native women who were raped or murdered. We weren't counted. We were not citizens until 1924. 1924.
I have a question regarding
Yes.
the natives that were forced, especially the children, were forced to leave their parents and go to schools and learn the language English and learn the habit of the white European and also the dressing stuff land. How does the native land was able, or is it continually trying to undo what the damage that had been done, right?
That's
Because there are
an
still
excellent question.
the native languages are being taught in the reservations, right? Please speak to that. Yes.
I'd be happy to. Thank you. That's an excellent question. The boarding school system that was imposed upon us was horrific. There's no way to tell it any other way. The best and brightest in the classes were forcibly sterilized without medication. And they were told you can leave when you can get up and walk out. On YouTube, there's a clip of this beautiful soul. She's speaking out about the boarding school experience and how every time she spoke her language, the nuns would knock out one of her teeth. And she stood there at this podium asking people to understand what she had gone through in these boarding schools in Canada. The same things happened, and similar and worse, here in America. All of her teeth were jagged. She said, I've never gotten my teeth fixed because I want people to know what I went through to speak my language. The boarding schools were incredibly violent. Our ways, while there are hundreds of different tribes, tribal nations, we don't all speak the same language. We don't all have the same cultures. People try to lump us together. Oh, you're all Native Americans. Well, yes, I guess you could say that like you're saying, oh, you're European. Okay, that's fine. I don't like to be called Indian because I'm not from India. I have friends who are, and I respect them, and I've had this conversation with them. But the boarding school system worked very hard to eradicate our culture, and it was not voluntary. It was involuntary, and it was violently involuntary. And our children, if they tried to run away, they were captured, brought back, beaten. I'll let you do a little more research on that. It's very, very dark. It's amazing that our people survived. If you just take a moment and you think, if I lived in a little village and there were no children there, how would that affect your heart? to never hear the laughter of children, to not hear a baby crying. Children were taken as young as 3 years old. In Alaska, they would pull up in bush planes, and kids in the village would come running out. "Ooh, there's a plane here, there's a plane here," right? "Oh, get on the plane, we'll give you some candy." And they would kidnap them and take them away. These are not things in our history as Americans that we should forget, that we can sweep under the rug, and that we can let people who write the textbooks say, "Oh, let's not teach this part. Let's teach it all. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's teach it all." So then we learn to be critical thinkers. We learn to go, "Hey, this is not a good direction we're going here. Let's turn a little bit. Let's have a course correction. Let's protect all children. Let's let children speak their language. Let's let children speak multiple languages." I mean, I'm sure most of you have heard the joke about what do you call somebody if they can speak 2 languages? Bilingual. What about 3? Trilingual. What about 1?
American.
Yes. Yes. American.
And we speak English.
Well, we speak American English. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Please help yourself. There's refreshments in the back and there's some food. Yes.
Example as far as English, the aviation community, International Civil Aviation Organization around the world, English is the language spoken in all areas. So whenever you go fly someplace, if you don't speak English, they're supposed to speak English, but a lot of times they will get off in their own dialect when they're talking. But that's the international language as far as not only aviation community, but other communities also, businesses and people.
What is the most celebrated holiday in the world?
First, that's
Thanksgiving.
No? In the entire world,
All the talking.
the most celebrated holiday. It's the day when people were free of the British Empire. 4th of July for us. It's many other things in many other countries. But I read this recently, this week as a matter of fact. I was like, well, that makes sense because the sun never sets on the British Empire. Until it does. Yes. Okay, so right now, right here, we're building bridges of understanding. We're questioning one another. We're learning from each other. We're engaging. We're sharing. I did not know that about pilots. I mean, that's fascinating. I really find that interesting. Next slide, please. So I want to know, what do you want? How do you want your community to look in the future? How do you want it to look right now?
There's a lot of knots that we're wanting to not look like certain things that are happening. So, yeah.
It's a good way to start. Like, you don't want aphids in your garden, so you get spray or oil or whatever. You take care of that problem. Maybe you don't want weeds in your garden. Maybe you pull those weeds out and you plant other things in their place. Maybe we plant seeds of brotherhood and sisterhood in our children. Maybe we encourage them to reach out to one another and get to know people, even people who don't look like us or don't eat the same foods we do or don't worship the way we do. In my culture, we believe that God is in everything. So we have a relationship with everything. The trees, the rocks, the land, the water, the air, the earth, the sky. If everything is created by the Creator, then we should respect that. And we believe that we are entrusted by the Creator to be stewards of the land. We don't own the land. You know, at best, maybe we could make it to 100 years. And how old is the earth? This is my dirt. So what about the second question? What do you see in your community that needs healing or needs help or needs changing? How do you do that? You're just one person. But are you just one person? Are you truly alone? No, we're not alone. There's billions of us on this planet. Billions. We're like ants. We're everywhere. We're even underground. I read an article this week that talked about a gentleman who lived underwater for quite some time. Did anyone else see that? So when he came out, they tested his body and he's 10 years younger. When you fly into space, it ages you. But when you live underwater, your age regresses. How fascinating is that? 10 years younger. I'm like, how many women would want to do that? And men, so not just women. I'm like, that's really fascinating. How many people have scuba dived or snorkeled? Okay, take a look around. These are your water buddies. When you're underwater, I took scuba diving when I was young, and I remember sitting at the bottom of a pool and looking up like this is the top of the water and going, I'm underwater, I shouldn't be able to breathe. And thinking how crazy it was that I could be sitting on the bottom of a pool for an extended amount of time and looking up at the water. But there's something magical about scuba diving and snorkeling. You're looking into another world. And all of a sudden you can't hear anything else but yourself breathing. It's faster if there's a shark around. I only say that because that happened once. But exploring different things and giving yourself permission to step outside your comfort zone, that's really important. You all took a healthy risk. You came out, you're like, oh, let's go see this Native woman. She's going to talk about culture. Got nothing else on my schedule. I'm going. I'm taking my friends. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made that healthy risk. You could have been doing so much else. Again, back to the rolling down the grassy knoll, right? And back to what do you need to heal yourself? Not just what do you need to heal your community, or what are the healing needs of your community. What do you need to heal yourself? What brings you joy? Anybody? Yes.
Just wondered, what do you mean by heal?
Oh my goodness. To be the best you. It doesn't always mean physical healing. It's just heart healing, it's spirit healing.
And the reason I ask that is because the obvious connections to community that you were referring to,
Yeah.
you're not alone. We're connected.
Yes.
But not just humans, with other
Everything.
beings too.
Yeah. Did you guys know trees like to be hugged? Yeah. It's a scientific fact. So next time you see a tree, you really like that tree, you're like, hey, thanks for the oxygen. Way to go, bud.
To lower your blood pressure too.
Yeah, all that. Did you have something to...
Talking about healing, one
Yes.
of the things that Cindy and I do a lot of are stewardships, where we go and where the land has been ruined, we help rebuild it. It's like where in Eastern Oregon, where there used to be full of beaver, now there's just these streams that, little vegetation. So we go in and build called beaver dam analogs to create the environment so that beavers can come back, and we also plant trees. And that, for me, it has to be one of the most gratifying things. And here's some land that we can help heal.
Yeah. Plant a tree, plant another tree, plant a lot of trees. The oxygen from the trees.
I know at the neighborhood and it's Sherwood or someplace in the Portland area where just two folks had a piece of land that they could plant crops and vegetables and asked their neighbors to come and if they wanted to plant and share the crops with them, and they built that community. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but that really, they get together there and, they may even pray for the growth of the crops and they share the crops, they get together. So that's really a community to me. I didn't have, and I wish we had that opportunity in every neighborhood here.
Yeah. I do too. So this right here, this is a picture of canoe practice from Portland All Nations Canoe Family. Apologize, it's a little smaller than I was expecting. At any rate, one of my grandchildren is paddling. So these kids, they went for the weekend for canoe practice. There's no cell signal there. This is on the Warm Springs Indian Reservation. So no phones, no tablets, no laptops, just kids running through the campground, chasing each other. Tag, you're it. Time for canoe practice. Everybody goes running down to the water, puts on their vest, hops in the canoe, helps each other get in the canoe. So if you're on one side of the canoe and someone else is on the other side of the canoe and you're paddling at different times, what's that do to the canoe? You just go in a big old circle. So it's important to build community. So as human beings, we're all in the same canoe. We're all on this spinning ball, slipping through space. Let's paddle in the same direction. Let's get to our destination together. And if that's a destination of good health, strong communities, kindness to our elders and to each other, studies show that multi-generational households result in longer lives for children and for elders. And healthier families. Because you're sharing the wisdom of those who've already raised children with the new generation that's just coming up. You're giving the parents a break, giving yourself a break. We go play with our grandkids all the time. My youngest granddaughter prefers my partner to me. No resentment on my part. I literally will walk in and I'll hold her so she can't see him. I'm like, oh, you're so cute. I just love you. And then he'll go, hello, Akane. And she'll be like, ah! And she goes running and she raises her arms. And then, of course, she's wrapped around his little finger. He's wrapped around her little finger. But we build community by spending time with each other. That's why it means so much to me that each of you came out tonight to share time with me. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm going to talk about. Could have been anything, right? Could have been some kind of crazy presentation. Who knows? Instead, even worse, I'm talking to you about healing. Oh no. And culture and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ah! Oh my. Next slide, please. What are your strengths? So for this one, we're going to go around the whole room. Don't use someone else's strength. Use your own. Think about what is your strength, whether you've ever articulated that to someone else or not. What is your strength? So I'm going to start with Dawn. What's your strength? It could just be one word. I should have actually told you. I was going to call on you. Like, thanks, babe.
I can fix almost anything.
Yes, that's pretty amazing. I love that about you. Among other things. Okay, can we start here? What's your strength?
Storyteller.
But nice.
I'm very jealous.
Wonderful.
I'm very curious. I want to know people.
I love that. Thank you. Organized. Organized.
Direct.
Direct.
Collaborative.
Depends on how much trouble I'm in.
Okay, so you're in no trouble. What's your strength?
I don't do like.
I'm sure you have many.
Don't like.
Okay, we can come back to you.
See your point.
I'm kind.
Excellent. I believe that to be true. Thank you. And you've got a great sense of style. That's a fly shirt. Empathy. Wonderful.
Creative.
Creative. Awesome.
Faith.
Thank you.
Accommodating.
Accommodating. Oh, that's nice.
Teaching.
Teaching.
Resilient.
Ooh.
Cooking.
Ooh. We should hang.
Persistent.
Persistent. Very good. Are you a skier? We would share that.
Logistics.
Logistics. Ooh.
Listening.
Listening.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Excellent. Sir?
Logical, evidence-based thinking.
Nice. And guidance. Wonderful. That was wonderful. So I often tell my colleagues at ODE, I mean, I never imagined myself working for a state agency. We should turn off the camera now. No, I'm kidding. I never did. It wasn't in my life plan. I want to work for the state. But it was where Creator wanted me to be. And so it happened. And I work for the Office of Indian Education. Our Native students, we have improved their graduation rates substantially. They were the lowest in the state. And this past spring, one of our school districts graduated 93% of their students. And it was like in the 50s. So we have several programs, the Tribal Attendance Promising Practices program, wherein we put a family coordinator, a family representative into the school to check on kids. Like, hey, I saw you weren't in school today. Where are you at? Do you need a ride? I'm gonna come get you. Makes a huge difference when somebody takes specific care of you. You're not just a number. In one of our schools, we funded them to buy a washer and dryer because kids didn't have clean clothes, so they didn't want to come to school. At another school, we were able to help with a van. So the kids who were in sort of a rural area, the kids who were too close to ride the bus, right? But it's the dead of winter. How are they going to get to school? They're going to trudge through the snow, the sleet, everything. We help them with a van. We're solution-based. As human beings, we're always looking for solutions. We got a flat tire. Oh, great. I wonder if I have all the things I need to change the tire. I only say that because I had a blowout once on my way to Oklahoma. In Idaho, you know, that freeway that goes like this, which is really fun in a little car, but not at 2 a.m. when you have a blowout. So turns out I didn't have the tool to open something in the back of my car in the trunk so I could get to the tools to change the tire. I'm like, this is a design flaw. So I was already solution-based. Okay, do I have a signal? Hello? Called my insurance, give me a tow truck. Let's make that happen. So who are we as human beings? What are our superpowers? As humanity, sometimes we collaborate. What else? I say sometimes because sometimes we don't. We negotiate. We encourage. We berate. Go to school. Hurry up. Do your homework. Eat your...
You're cooperating and graduating.
What else do we do as human beings?
We learn.
We learn. Yes. Yes. We oftentimes learn from our mistakes. I don't say always. So somebody pick a question from up here and answer it for me, please.
Who are we? We're individuals.
Yeah, we are. If you take a pencil, you can snap that pencil in half like that, right? It's an arthritis thing I can't quite snap. Somebody snap for me. Excellent. Okay. But if you put a bundle of pencils together, it's almost impossible to break, right? If we stand together as human beings, we're incredibly strong. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is Nancy. She's a friend of mine. I'm really glad you could be here tonight. We're talking about expectations. You probably didn't expect to get called on as soon as you walked in the door. You're like, I'm going to come in. I'll be in the back of the room. Nobody will see me. But Renee's in charge, so she'll call me out. Yeah, I'm glad you found us. Thank you for coming out. How do we communicate our expectations? How do we say what we want in a relationship? How do we say what we want from an employer? What about what we want from a colleague or a community member or a neighbor? Like, I don't want you building your fence on my side. You could probably say it nicer than that. I read those Reddit things all the time, right? My neighbor built their fence on my property. They moved the lines, the survey sticks. I'm like, well, that sounds like a job for the city. I can't help with that. So we have to communicate, but we also have to communicate diplomatically. And who was it that said kindness? Somebody said they were kind. Yes, thank you. So we communicate with kindness, and you get so much further in the conversation, or maybe in your goals, or whatever you need, right? I was once at a protest against the former Washington team. I won't use that term because it's incredibly racist. I will just say that that term refers to the time when the bounty hunters were hunting our people and taking their scalps, and they received so much for a man's scalp, so much for a woman's, and so much for a child's. And the bounty hunters were complaining because they said the scalps were too heavy, and they were bringing in wagon loads of scalps from people they'd exterminated, people whose lives they had stolen. They said they're too heavy. Can we just take their skins? So for decades, our people have fought against that. And we've heard everything from, oh, you guys never protested before. That's because you didn't look outside. We were there with signs, blah, blah, blah. And so I was at a protest once at one of their games, and we were designated this little area over here, outside, away from the stadium. So we were out there with our signs, and we're being mellow. And the game gets over, people start flooding out, and somebody yells at us, "Go back to your own country." Yeah, so was my response. Go back for another beer. Anyways, it was quite the hilarious thing. Like, that happened when I was just in my 20s. I was kind of sarcastic then. I've changed. I'm more sarcastic now. Next slide, please. So I try to communicate through humor. I find that people listen better if you're telling jokes, and it's more fun for me. It's more fun for you. So that's what I like to do. Oops, let me get out of the way. This is a cedar hat. This is the third cedar hat that I wove, and I gifted it to a friend of mine. In the Northwest coastal tribes, if this part of the hat is really tall, that's a highly respected person. And this is an ermine right here. Not just decorative, but also significant. And then this is woven cedar into a little rope as a decorative piece. So I gifted that to a former colleague, and Debbie Melamai, so I'm going to call her and tell her she needs to watch this video, because I called her out. Because she is coastal, I'm not. I'm visiting this art. It's not mine. But it was so beautiful, I wanted her to have it, because she didn't have a cedar hat. And she's older than I am. Maybe she didn't have the time to make one or take a class or whatever. But now she has one.
What is that hiding, the white?
That's an ermine. It's a small creature. Welcome, thank you for coming. There's water and there's food. Please help yourself. It's almost like a native event. There's water and there's food. We don't even have to rip the fry bread in half. Wait, look, we have more. So in our country right now, we're seeing, actually, let me back up just a smidge. I did a presentation years ago for the Lakota Sioux Housing Authority. And while I was doing that presentation, I went over to write on the giant Post-it that I had this whole little thing set up. And I'm like, use your story. Don't let your story use you. And I was like, wait, that's the best thing I've ever said in my life. Because we see that every day. We see homeless people letting their story use them. Right? But what are we doing for them? What are we doing for the people who are lost in our community? Majority of people who are homeless are veterans. And close behind them are LGBT youth, kicked out once they come out to their families. There's no shame in being one of the Creator's creations. I don't care who you sleep with, I just don't want to watch. It's not my thing. So how do we make our communities healthier? If you look at Finland, Finland just built, they converted a hotel to all apartments. And they house homeless there, and they have mental health counselor, and they have a drug and alcohol counselor, and they have a 90% success rate of people getting back on their feet. 90%. That's community building. When you give people opportunity, it lifts them. Here in Oregon at one time, we had a prison wherein the warden, who was the father of one of my professors, she told me this story. She said, my dad was a warden at a prison here in Oregon. And he encouraged the inmates to take classes so they could get their associate's degree while they were incarcerated. And he had a very low recidivism rate, very low. People didn't want to come back. They had educated themselves. They had gained skills that would help them outside and help them not repeat the mistakes that they'd made in the past. Unfortunately, her father retired. The next warden took that program away. The prison system is not designed to help people become better human beings. So we, as a community, we need to voice our concerns. We need to use our voices. We need to unite our voices to help our community, to help solve the homeless problem, to help solve the prison problem, to help solve the missing and murdered Indigenous women and children and people problem. I mentioned earlier that our people are killed at the highest rate by the police. And I think that this is cultural. We all grew up watching cowboys and Indians, right? And thinking Native people were always the bad guys. When I was in grad school, after I finished that bachelor's degree at 42, made it under the wire, thank you. You weren't even here for that part of the story, and she gave me a clap. Like, good job, Renee. Hi, I'm Renee. I just derailed my own train of thought. Okay, where was I? Somebody catch me up. Grad school, yes. At 42. Yes. Okay, so, well, anyways, that one's gone. That train left the station and kicked me off. If it's important, it'll come back. What are our expectations? Do we expect to help each other? Like, I wouldn't have made it through grad school if people hadn't helped me. That's not the story I was going to tell, but it's the story you have now. I wouldn't have. I was a single mom. I was working 7 part-time jobs trying to get through grad school.
7?
7. I lived by my day planner. Grad school is not cheap. So I made a healthy choice to live in poverty with my child to get through school. But he didn't know we lived in poverty. He had clothes, he had shoes, he had food, he had shelter. He had all the things he needed. You know, he may not have had an Xbox or PS 245. He may not have had those things, but he had love and he had adventure. And we'd go hiking all the time. I used to take my kids in the woods and say, okay, we're in the woods now. And you ran off and I couldn't find you. How am I going to find you? How are you going to stay warm? How are you going to eat? Where are you going to find shelter? You need to come to the woods with me. When you go to the woods, there's food all around you. Everywhere. There's food. There's medicine. My grandfather taught me, for every illness, there's a plant that will cure it. There's a plant. So when we're looking at the biodiversity of our planet, when we're seeing species go extinct and we're seeing plants go extinct, we're not being good stewards of the land. We're not being good stewards of one another. We can do better. In our communities, we didn't have this prejudice against LGBT people. In our Cheyenne communities, if a person was a Two-Spirit person, they were highly respected because they embody both male and female. So as a young woman, you could go to a Two-Spirit person and say, ooh, what do I say to that boy? And they would know. And the boy could go to them, oh, what do I say to that girl? And they would know. They were our matchmakers. They were our doctors. They were our nurses. People would come from miles around for their advice. And how do we treat LGBT people today in America? Yeah. And we see people resenting folks for loving each other. I think that loving each other is a good thing. Being kind to one another is a good thing. God doesn't make mistakes. You're the way you're supposed to be. If we say we're all created in God's image, ta-da, here I am, and here you are. And each of you is beautifully unique. Each of you have strengths. You have kindness. You have compassion. You're logical thinkers. You're super helpful. I'm the IT guy's now my new best friend. What's our follow through? What can you do as a community member? It doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's something as simple as, Miss Farah, you look beautiful today. I just wanted to tell you that. I'm so glad you're here. So, thank you. It's as simple as just acknowledging someone else's humanity. One of my friends, her boyfriend, or husband now, I think, says hello to everybody they see walking down the sidewalk. Hi, good morning. Hi, how you doing? Hi, hi. And finally she asked him, why do you do that all the time? He said, because I read that the main reason people commit suicide is because they feel invisible. Because people don't acknowledge them on the planet. How hard is it to say hello? It's not hard. When I was a young girl, I time check. Whoa, it's off to the side. I got about half an hour. Is that right? Can you be my time kipper? I have till 7:30. Can you just raise your hand when I have 5 minutes, and then I'll wrap it up.
Oh, okay.
So everybody can go, so you can get some sunshine still. Oh no, it'll be a quick question. No, you can ask questions anytime. Please do, please do. Because we need to improve our communication. Yes. Yeah. So we can't do that without, communicating. So as yes.
Question that you touched on when we first started. People call Native Americans Indians. Where did the term Indian come from?
Columbus thought he was going to India.
India, yes. When the settlers came over, when Columbus came over, and the Indians, the indigenous people were here, and they were called Indians. Where did that name come from? That's what
Columbus. He was lost. He was looking for spice. He was looking for a new
I
path.
thought he was, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Columbus is the dirty bird.
Yeah. So in the first 40 years after contact, there were 14 million people who died. 14 million in the first 40 years. This is documented by Bartolomé de las Casas, widely considered the first human rights activist in documented history. I won't say he was a wonderful person, but because he did suggest, rather than native slaves, that people should have black slaves. I'm like, that's not a good alternative. How about no slaves? So, yeah, there's a lot of misnomers in our past, but if you want to refer to me personally or to another Native person, I would just ask him, what nation do you come from? I'm Cheyenne. So, you know, if somebody's from France, I'm not going to say, oh, you're European, right? No, I'm going to ask them what nation they're from. And then I'm going to address them appropriately. Yes?
What's the difference between a nation and a tribe?
That's a really good question. So in my mind, when we call ourselves, and this is just my opinion, when we call ourselves a tribe, that diminishes us. In the U.S. Constitution, we're referred to as nations because we are. And in the state of Oregon, we have a government-to-government relationship with the 9 federally recognized tribes here in Oregon. And it is highly respected, it is very formal, and it is too long in coming. Like, Oregon leads the way in so many wonderful areas that y'all don't even know about. I'm happy to share that. It brings me great joy to see how tribes are treated here by the government here, and to be a small part of that process. So to finish up, let me roll through this story real quick, and then we'll go on to the next thing.
I think that the
Yes.
video, a lot focuses on negative things.
Yes.
So those whole good things that you're talking about, I don't really know a whole lot of because of it. That's very important to know.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't hear about it because people don't write about it. A couple years ago, we were headed home for ceremony, and we were with my son and his family, and he has a young girl, and they stopped to get gas and snacks, and he saw that there was a guy hanging out by the restroom, and his little girl was in the ladies' room. And so he went to grab some snacks, and he thought, you know, she's taking a little while, I'm going to go check on her. So he walks over to the hallway, and that guy is standing next to the women's room. He's not standing by the men's room like he's waiting for the men's room. Well, there was a door right there next to him, and it was open. And right outside there was a man in a car, and the car was running. And so my son, who has a little bit of his mom in him, just a smidge. What are you doing, dude? Oh, I'm waiting for the men's room. Men's room's over there. There's nobody in there. And the guy's like, okay. And so he shuffled off to the men's room. But we are all certain that he was going to try to snatch my granddaughter. We have to be vigilant. We have to protect our children, no matter what color our children are, no matter what community they come from. There's a thing going around on social media right now where a guy will run up and grab a little boy and run down an alleyway with him. And I watched one person after another see that and walk on by. And then I had to watch it for a few minutes before I saw a woman go, oh, heck no. And she went down the hallway, and then they came out, and the man pointed, look, we're filming this so we can show people. It happens so fast. Let's build a community where children are safe. In Japan, children go on errands. As little toddlers, they'll hop on the train, they'll go, they'll run an errand, they'll come back. And people in America are like, oh, why are you doing that? The child could get hurt. No, this is our culture. Our culture, children are safe. Our Cheyenne people, we didn't beat our women. We didn't beat our children. We didn't use harsh words. What we did to teach a child, if they were misbehaving, we would ignore them. It doesn't take very long of being ignored before you're like, what did I do? Hey, Mom, what did I do? Well, now that you asked, here's what you didn't do. And it was very effective. I raised my children in a drug, alcohol, and violence-free home. That is my greatest accomplishment. It isn't my maze, my Master of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies. It isn't a piece of paper. It's happy, successful, wholesome children who are adults. They have children. You always think of them as kids, though, right? I remember you when you shaved your head. No. Next slide, please. As human beings, we are solution-based. How many of you have watched The Walking Dead? Confess, hands high. We're like binging. Why are they doing that? Oh my gosh, I can't watch anymore. I had to stop at one point and take a break because I'm trying to catch up. Yes?
Just wondered, I mean, is there a strong presence of the Walking Dead people here? I just wondered, I mean, the reason is, and I check in occasionally, but I'm just not familiar with this social icon of reality or fake reality or whatever it is. But no, the thing that gets me is these dead people, they just come and bite you, right? And then you're infected, right? But they don't eat you really as it's claimed. So maybe they're just looking for friends. People like that. I mean, I'm a dumb guy. I see kind of questions. They're building community,
Look at it doing with the apple.
So when Dawn was trying to talk me into watching The Walking Dead, and I do like zombie movies, to be honest, I was like, what is all this? He goes, no, it's the character development. It's the people. And it's watching people trying to rebuild a safe and healthy society. And so it's really fascinating as an anthropologist to see the disparities in different communities that have survived and how people survive and how they lean into one another. At one point, there was a storyline of, we're going to kill that whole farming community. I'm like, where are you going to get your food? They're giving you all your food, and none of y'all know how to grow anything but a hangnail. So just wondering. So speaking of supporting positive actions, let's have no zombies. How can you support positive actions in your community? What actions can you take to improve your community?
Joy.
Join. Yes. What else?
Listening.
Listening.
Participating, supporting.
Yeah. Participating and supporting. Sir?
I was going to say wake up.
Yeah. Wake up. Don't let things slip by you.
Learn.
Yeah. Learn.
And curiosity to know.
Yes.
Good
Absolutely.
word, but reality check.
Yeah. Yeah. We need a reality reset, I think. I would love for American culture to learn from my culture, where community is everybody. It's not, oh, this is our community, you guys aren't welcome. We don't need anybody else, we're good. We're fine over here. You guys fend for yourselves. No. Every person has a purpose. My IT guy, right? My kindness gentleman. Everybody. Farah cooks. Gentleman behind her cooks.
I eat too when she cooks.
That's a good partnership right there. See, building community. One time when I was back in college, the second time, I took a class on Native people because I decided, okay, I'm switching to anthropology. And I was trying to go for education, but by the time I moved to Eastern, they'd actually stopped having an education track, and I didn't know. So I was stuck there. I'd moved there. My son was in school. He'd been in school for a month, and I went to sign up for classes, and the classes I want were gone. So I switched to anthropology, and it was a study of cultures. So I'm sitting there in class, and this professor's talking to me, and I'm like, holy cow, this is fascinating. Of course I love cultures. I love people. I want to learn more. So I sat in her class, I read everything, I attended every class, and I took the first test, and I was the first one done. I was like, oh, this is cool, I like this. And I got 100 on my paper. So I was like, okay, this is the direction Creator wants me to go. To talk about people and culture and the importance of all that. So if we're a more inclusive society, genuinely embracing one another, our differences, our food for sure, embracing the fact that we shouldn't beat our women, we shouldn't beat our children, we can find other ways to survive successfully and healthfully in our society. So, next slide, please. We are in this moment right here, right now. Creator brought you here for a reason. Somebody tell me why you're here. What drew you to this event?
Just to learn, to understand, even broaden my horizons.
Nice. Thank you.
I wanted to be in a space with like-minded people.
Ah, very good, very good. Yes? Oops.
I wanted to learn from you. I wanted to know you better. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. At the very end, you'll have my email. You're encouraged to reach out.
You did.
What?
You did.
We did a buckskin dressmaking class a while back, and Nancy came to that, and it was a lot of fun. I was like, you know what? This is a skill that I have that I don't want to just keep. Because a lot of times we hear people say, oh, I'm a culture bearer or culture keeper. And I'm like, no, I'm a culture sharer. So I don't share what I know. It's going to end with me. My grandfather said, granddaughter, you maybe you know a quarter of what I know. I know maybe half of what my grandparents knew. What will your children know? How do we teach them? How do we teach them to survive in the woods if they get lost? How do we teach them they can eat fiddlehead ferns all day long? They'll be yummy as all get out. Little things like that. We teach them, we spend time with them. That's the ticket. Time. Take time for yourself to grow, to learn, to listen. What else? What else? What other reasons are you here for? The food, I know, the food was probably pretty good.
My interest in learning more about Native Americans.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Because my native land where my mother was born was very similar to the Navajo, this nation. The cooking, the weavings, all of this very, so the mountain regions, I want to say, and
May I ask where your homelands are?
Iran, because
Oh, yeah. One of my professors was from Iran. He was very wise and a good teacher. So the people I've met from your country have been very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
and so are the people here in this country. The Native Americans are very kind, very, very giving.
Yeah.
We're very giving. I call them earth people because they know you by your heart, by your eyes, not by your material. And
Yeah, we don't care about your wallet unless you're paying for gas.
So in a lot of cultures, especially in the East, where I'm from, the community support is strong, family support is strong. People know each other in the neighborhood. They talk to each other, they go visit each other without invitation and stuff
Yes.
like that. And it's very common and accepted and promoted. In the Western culture, it's always a little bit different. We're more individualistic. As opposed to members of the community.
Yeah.
And so that requires a little bit more effort. But I think what we can each do, combined effort, we can change culture.
Yes.
So we have a shared vision here to change that culture into a more inclusive and loving community, knowing each other fellowship. That's the important part of it. And oftentimes we don't know our neighbors. And so that, I think, needs improvement in that area.
Great.
So different cultures have different strengths and different, not so much strength, but we can all really learn from each other. That's precisely why you're here talking to us.
Yeah. That's it, 100%. Next slide, please. That is precisely why I'm here. I thought, gosh, this would be a really fun thing to do, to go and talk to people about my culture. Yay, so I'm gonna do it. So I'm glad you guys reached out and asked me to be here. You have to choose what works for you and your community. Every community is different. Some communities are more sports oriented. If you live in Seattle and you don't like football, you're in the wrong town. Because there's going to be an earthquake every game day. Only because I've been to a couple games. It is so loud. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun. That's its own culture, right? The Seattle Seahawks, their own culture. If we all pull in the same direction, we can travel over oceans. A few years back on Canoe Journey, which happens every year, except for during COVID. They took a break during COVID. And COVID, I think, set us back in a lot of ways. Not just in our children are struggling now because they didn't learn all the things that they would have learned for those years. Like, you stand in line. You wait for lunch. You don't push the kid next to you, which would happen anyway. You don't touch them. Yeah. All those little social things that our kids would have learned, they didn't really learn. And the parents were struggling also. It's hard to have that many kids in that many households. Oh, suddenly you're the teacher and you're working. Oh, wait, you can't work, so how are you surviving? So how are they learning? There's a lot there's a reset in our country. And one of the things I have noticed, and I'll say this as an anthropologist, that a decline in manners is a sign of a decaying society. And we're seeing that everywhere. I was at Costco recently, and I was behind somebody who was getting something free. You probably remember this. And I thought she was going to go that way because her back was to me, and there was a cart here. Instead, she got her thing, she turned, and she walked like she was going to walk right through me. So I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I said, excuse me, and excuse you. But I said it with a laugh. So I was like, you almost ran me over, lady. And then she came back over, and she goes, I'm a nice person. I'm like, apparently. My experience might be a little different. I don't know. But it was really cool having the powers of invisibility cloak right then. So what works for the community? Being kind works for the community. Volunteering works for the community. You know, maybe you're volunteering at a pet shelter. Which there's a pet shelter that just did an amazing thing. They offered, for $5, you could walk the dog. You could walk your dog while you played Pokemon. Right? Because you see people walking around playing Pokemon all the time. Well, this would give you a reason. Oh, I'm just out walking my dog, not I'm just playing a game. Every one of those dogs got adopted. That shelter is empty today. Empty. What a great story. What a great opportunity. Something that works for that community. Next slide, please. This is my little granddaughter's hand. I was gifted this paddle at Canoe Journey. So in Canoe Journey, there was a canoe, as I mentioned several years ago, there was a birch bark canoe on Canoe Journey on the ocean out here in the Pacific. Yes. I was like, how is that even going to make it? A birch bark canoe? That's a river canoe. But they made it, and it was fantastic. It was so exciting. So these are all questions I want you to ask yourself. Ask yourself. Don't just ask me. I'm just one person. But look at all of us together. What could we accomplish together? How about we say excuse me before we run somebody over at Costco? Incoming! Next slide, please. So back to communication. And you may have heard I'm a photographer. What do you see in this photo? I really want you to intensely look at it. So I don't really edit my photos, like I'll crop them, or sometimes I'll lighten or darken, but I don't do Photoshop. I don't know how to do that. I guess I could learn, but who has time for that? I'm busy changing the world. So off to the left, what do you see there? To me, yeah.
I see a face, but it's weird. It has like a bird beak on it.
Oh, a bird beak. Huh. Like I can see his arms and his legs. He's sitting in a chair. Here's his shoulders.
I didn't see that.
I did not see that when I took the picture. I saw this. I'm like, that looks like an angel in the sky. That's why I took the picture. And then later, like, holy guacamole, look at that. That is so cool.
I see the bird beak too.
You can see the bird beak? Up there?
The dark is just.
Uh-huh.
I see the guy too.
Interesting. Where do we grow from here? So we're spending an hour and a half together, and we have 10 minutes left. How are we going to change the world together? How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? What do you want to do? Are you going to write letters? Are you going to call your elected representatives? Are you going to lobby for somebody? Are you going to, what are you going to do? Are you going to say hello to 10 people every day? Oh, that was the story I wanted to tell you. I'm back. poor me. And he's like, where'd she go now? When I was a kid, in middle school, if you'd voted, I probably wouldn't have been the kid most likely to get beaten up. I had a lot of bullies in middle school, and it was awful. So when I went to high school, I went to a feeder school out in Sandy. So kids were bussed in from 30, 40 miles away. And I thought, these kids don't know me. They don't know I'm a punching bag. I have a reset that's coming. And I'd read a letter from Dear Abby, and she said how to be a friend. And she said, say hello to 10 people every day. Just say hello and smile when you say hello. Well, I was really shy, which I know most people don't believe now, but I still am. I push myself. And so I go to school, like, hi, 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 hi. Please don't hit me. Hi. So I went from 8th grade, most likely to get beaten up, to my senior year, I was student body president. I knew everybody because I said hello to 10 people every day, and I smiled. And by the time I was a junior, I knew everybody in the school. How's it going? How you doing? How's your mom? I heard about your dog. Is he going to be okay? I knew people. People knew me, and I genuinely care about people. And they can tell when you care. They can tell when you're in that moment with them. So let's be in that moment with our communities. Let's grow our communities in a healthy way. And let's be healthy with each other. And when you feel that harsh word coming, so maybe I shouldn't have said, excuse you too. But I am sarcastic and I'm a comedian. You gave me a chance, I took it. But I said with a smile. Let's be gentle with one another because we don't know what someone else is going through. We don't know. We don't know if someone's just suffered the loss of a parent or a child. We don't know if someone's lunch didn't agree with them. We just don't know if where they ate at. We don't know what's going through their mind and their life. Let's be kinder. Let's be better human beings. Next slide, please. So I know I've reiterated a lot of the same questions. How do we build community? What do we want it to look like? It's because I want you guys to think about that. I want you to walk away from here not going, oh, that was a fun lecture, but I want you to take personal responsibility. This is your community. How are you going to make it better for future people? Among Native people, we say we make decisions for the 7th generation, for the faces yet to come. We're not supposed to make decisions, oh, I need this thing. I'm going to build this giant edifice to me and I'm going to put my name on it. How's that going to help future generations? How about I'm building hospitals in different countries and different communities? I want to bring health care. There's a billionairess in New York City who left her money to, I think not NYU, but to a college in New York. You may have heard of this. So people could have free education to become medical professionals. If anybody knows the name of the college, let me know. That's what I want our world to look like. And that's redistribution of wealth, and that's something Native people do all the time. When we have a celebration, we have a giveaway. We give away blankets, we give away towels, we give away food. We feed everybody. We take care of our community. Everybody in the community is important. If somebody doesn't have food, we bring them food. We have a little term called a pounding. Does anybody know what that means? A pounding? It means if you didn't have any food, all of us would get a pound of sugar, a pound of flour, whatever you need. And we would come to your home with all that food for you. That's community. And it's funny that it's called a pounding. Okay. It does sound violent. Here, take this can of beans. Oh no, that was on camera. Okay, having a great time with you guys tonight. And that's my 5 minutes. Okay. Next slide, please. Ta-da! That's the last slide. Yay, you guys made it. You survived this lecture. Any questions? Any thoughts? Yes, sir.
One comment. I noticed that when you go into a business and you go into a store or whatever, their greeters say, welcome, how you doing? And the normal response is fine. I usually come back and say, fine, how are you doing? And a lot of times it gets people just shot some, really. But,
Yeah.
But that's the way of getting conversations started or getting them to feel like they're important also.
Yeah, I've had amazing conversations. I went to Europe last year because I turned 60 last year, and I'd been asked to be featured poet in Cologne. And I was like, if I'm going to Cologne, I'm going. So I spent 3 days in Iceland. I went to Stuttgart. I went to the Netherlands and Belgium. And Belgium took like 15 minutes to get through. So if you ever go to Europe, no offense to anyone from Belgium, it did take a little bit longer than that. But the people
there for 4 years.
See, you know what I'm talking about. And the Netherlands, the people are so tall. It's like a country of giants. I walked in, I was like, excuse me, pardon me. It felt like a little toddler. I'm sorry?
What about your job? It's a little city.
I need shorter people around me. I'm not that tall. Like, but it was really fun to go over there and hear different languages. That's what I love about visiting Europe. You hear so many different languages. And the funniest thing is, the only time I'm called an American is when I go to Europe. Over here, people say, what are you? And now my response is, I'm human. What are you? Let's be human together. Let's be human together. The rest of it is just DNA and culture. Let's build our cultures in a healthy way. Let's build one another up. Let's say hello to 10 people. 10 people. That's all. So I did that again in grad school. Because nobody said hello at all. You'd be like going to class and you're walking by hundreds of people. Nobody said anything. And I was like, you know, I'm going to do that thing. And I carried a notebook, a little pad, and I would write down, I would talk to 10 people, and if they had earbuds, I wouldn't say anything. If they were with somebody else talking, I wouldn't say anything. But if they were walking by themselves and I didn't know them, I would say, hi, good morning. Hi there, how are you doing? And I kept track of, was this a white person, a black person? What kind of race did I think that they were from? Was it a male or female? Kind of what age range were they? Can anybody guess what type of person was most likely? Actually, let me guess who was least likely to say hello back.
White.
Male.
Young white females. was the hardest thing to get young white females to say hello back, which I found astonishing. I did it for like 3 months. And finally I went, I got other things to do. I'm not getting paid to do this study. But who was the most likely to say hello back? Young black males. Young black men always said hello back.
Were you
Always.
at EOU then, or were you somewhere else?
For grad school, I went to OSU. Yes. And so, you know, say hello. I challenge each and every one of you, say hello to 10 people. See if it doesn't change your perspective and change theirs. And maybe, just maybe, you'll say hello to somebody in crisis. You'll say hello to somebody who feels invisible. You'll save a life. And that, my friends, is building community. Thank you. All right, I'm going to read you guys a poem real quick before you go. Or if you need to go, go ahead. This is called Eternal Song. I feel the song of 1,000 years. I smell the earth of my ancestors. I see the sky that looked on other nations. I hear the song that carries us through the ages. I taste the victory so long denied. Thank you so much for your time.